Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you that how you can display a list, an array of data onto your React screen. So let's go ahead and get started. I already have a component, which is called the app component. And you can see right over here, we have a render. The render doesn't really do much. It simply prints out app, and that's pretty much it. So what we want to do is we want to have a list of data. This can be anything, list of customers, list of movies, list of tasks, anything. And we want to display it on our screen on the right-hand side. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, right now, we're going to hard code the list, but eventually in the future videos, you will see that we will be fetching the data from some sort of a asynchronous, like a JSON API or something. So I'll begin with a constructor. And inside the constructor, I have to call super. Super, in this case, is the parent class, which is component. So we are basically calling the constructor of the component, so the component is completely initialized. Next up is to create some sort of a list. And we want to access that list inside our render, although we can use properties like normal JavaScript properties, this.customers. I'm going to put the list inside a state. And the reason that I'm going to put the list inside the state is that later on, we might have to do something with the list. And when we change the list or update the list, we want to call the render again. So I'm going to go ahead and say this.state equals to, and state is an object. And inside this, we can actually go ahead and create our list. I'm just going to call a list users, which can be an array of something, which will have a name. So we can go ahead and put, let's say, John Doe. And we can have an age property, which is whatever, 34. And I can go ahead and put multiple items in the list. So let's call this Mary Doe and whatever the age is. And then let's go ahead and add one more item. Let's say Steve Doe. And this is 36. Okay. So we have inside the state, we have an array called users, and that's the one that we want to display in our render function on our screen. So how do we get started with that? So we know that if we want to display these items, names, on our screen, we have to convert it. We have to use some sort of a user interface elements, like a div or a span or a li or something like that, right? If I simply go over here and remove the app and I say this.state.users, well, that really won't make any sense because users is actually an array of these three objects, and it doesn't really have any default view or kind of like a default way of saying that this is what I want to do, this is how I want to display. So that's not going to work. So let's remove that. What we want to do is we want to iterate through the users, and we want to create a separate array of items that will be the JSX elements that will represent each single item or each item of this array. So I'm going to go over here inside the render function and create a constant or a let, and I will call it user items, but you can obviously call this anything you want. Then I'm going to go ahead and go through the loop. So this.state.users.map. So I'm going through the array called users, and the map we already know is going to return me a brand new array based on the condition that I'm going to supply over here. So I'll get the user, and whatever I return from over here will be the items in the array. So let me actually show you. So if I go ahead and return an li and I say hello world, what do you think this user items will contain? It will contain an array of LIs, and we can actually go ahead and print it out. So if I go ahead and over here, I can print out user items. Let's go ahead and inspect console, and you can see that we are printing out items of 3 array. And let's see, so it is a React element of type li that we are printing it out. So when we can print out items of array, if I simply put this item over here, like user items, the variable, I can get hello world being displayed on the screen, as you can see. Now right now there is a warning which is displayed on the console, and the warning is basically saying that, well, these 3 items that you're creating, it would be nice if these 3 items have some sort of a unique ID, because remember that React deals with JSX. It doesn't really, and then JSX is eventually converted to HTML. But what React is saying that I have a tree that you're building, which kind of looks like this, of items. And these 3 items, all of them kind of look exactly the same. So maybe it's a good idea to give them some sort of ID to uniquely specify the items. So let's go ahead and fix that. It's not that hard to fix that issue. So what happens is that when you are using the map function, the first argument is the actual object inside the array, and the second item is the actual index. And this is the index that we can assign to the key to make it unique. So if I go ahead and refresh it now, you can see that the warning went away. Now in your actual application, you shouldn't really assign the index. You should probably assign some sort of a unique key that you're getting it from the database or something. But right now we're simply assigning the index, which makes these 3 items unique, because this one will be 0, this one will be 1, this one will be 2. And the warning went away now. But right now it's displaying hello world, and we don't really want to display hello world. We want to display the name of the user and the age of the user. So we know that definitely something has to happen over here. Well, what about if we go over here and if we say, okay, we want to display user.name, and we save it. And now it's injecting the value of the property name of the user. And user is the item that we are just saying that every item inside the array, we are just calling it user, because it's a array is just simply iterating through. Same way, we can target the actual age. So we can say user.age, because there is an age property on every user object, and we were able to display the age. Now if you want to display these items, which are an array of LIs, it might be a good idea to maybe display it inside UL. So I'm just going to change UL so that every item is displayed inside a UL. And now you can see how it displays. If I go and check out the elements, you'll see that elements itself is contains UL, and it contains all the LIs. So basically the same exact structure that we have built is rendered eventually by React. And now we can see that this is how it gets displayed. Now, if you say, okay, I want to kind of like customize this and I want to display this inside something else, well, then this is a code to customize. Right over here, this is each customer or user information which makes a single user over here. So you can simply customize this any way you like. If I want the user name to be in bold characters, so I can maybe wrap this around with the bold tag. It's just basic HTML at this point. So I'm just going to wrap this around with bold tag. I'll save it, and now the username, all of the usernames are bold. So all the things that you have learned for HTML, all of them actually apply over here. You're just using React to create an array of those items, like user interface items, and then you are simply putting them on the screen by rendering it, which we're doing it right over here. All right. Okay, so this is great, and this allowed us to at least print out the items from some sort of a hard-coded array that we have created. But in your actual applications, you will not really be dealing with hard-coded arrays. You will probably get the array or some sort of a data from a JSON API, maybe a list of movies, maybe a list of weather information, a list of customers, and so on. But before we dive into that, it is important to understand the life cycle events of React. So let's go and take a look at only few lifecycle events that we'll be using in React.